In the end, I must say that by the data and also from my own anecdotal experience playing this game for a long time, Cora has to be the best overall loot frame for solo loot, purely because of her ease of use.
Oi, oi, oi. Boy, was I wrong on this one. Let's dive in why and let me explain what setup is even better than Cora for solo loot in Warframe. Last video I did on solo loot frames was to try out some base kits against each other and see which loot ability innately present on each frame is the strongest. I concluded that Nekros significantly underperformed compared to Cora and Hydroid, especially in fast mission types. However, from my chosen frames, I forgot to include Atlas, who you may not consider as a loot frame straight away, but his augment mod Orgaze gives Petrify the ability to increase loot drops. Compared to Cora's Strangledome and Hydroid's Tentacle Swarm, Orgaze is able to scale indefinitely with ability strength, reaching 100% extra drop chance at 400% ability strength, and with further possibilities to go even beyond the 100% drop chance. Furthermore, Petrify is Atlas's subsume ability, meaning that you can get Orgaze on any Warframe in the game. This was also pointed out by all of you guys in the comments, alongside many other suggestions and remarks, which I will try to cover in this video. First, I want to go back and go over Nekros again, and the testing that I have done to find the optimal Nekros loot build for me personally. As I just mentioned, Petrify is Atlas's subsume ability, which means that we can put it onto Nekros together with Orgaze, resulting in Nekros being able to desecrate as usual, but with even more loot chance on top of this from Orgaze. As I alluded to in the last video, Dismemberment is one of the main ways in which you can scale Nekros' Desecrate ability, giving additional loot, as additional body parts are also rerolled. This Dismemberment can be triggered by Amalgam True Steel on the Ripcast, providing 100% gore chance. Dismemberment using the Ripcast with this Amalgam mod can be triggered by almost any type of damage, including damage coming from, for instance, the Kuva Brahma or the Torrid. However, enemies which are petrified cannot be dismembered, which is a sad slight anti-synergy. Nonetheless, it's difficult to always petrify every enemy you kill, leading to the Ripcast still giving a slight uplift in loot performance of about 5.42% compared to a setup without Ripcast. Out of the 6 total setups that I tested, I found the Kuva Brahma setup to perform the best overall, closely followed by killing enemies with the Ripcast directly, utilizing melee influence. Besides this, I also tested setups without the Ripcast and a setup with the Torrid, which performed worse than the Brahma in my testing as well, likely due to its lower AoE capacity. The most striking difference was when I was not using Orgaze. Here the difference between the builds was a whopping 25.35% in total average loot, illustrating how Orgaze drastically improves resource farming on Nekros. In the end, I took the Nekros Orgaze setup with the Kuva Brahma onwards for further testing. Okay, so before I get into how Atlas compared to the other frames, I want to quickly come back to the Ripcast, being able to trigger Dismemberment from any source of damage. In a slight tangent, I went on to test Octavia's Mallet, which was able to trigger Dismemberment. This could be a very nice semi-AFK duo farming setup when paired with a Nekros, as both players can become invisible for extended periods of time, while the Mallet attracts enemies and kills them with its scaling damage. In this setup, an Octavia using Ripcast resulted in around 20% more loot overall compared to not using the Ripcast with the Amalgam mod. Okay, so now let's go over Atlas and where he falls within previous testing, including the newly gathered data from the updated Nekros build. I'll start off with the Exterminate data, where I just like on all the other frames, used the Kuva Brahma to progress through the mission. For the Atlas build, I was using this build which had high ability strength, some range, for Petrify, and I built him for reasonably good energy sustain, as Petrify is quite energy hungry. The data shows that while Atlas still performs better than the updated Nekros build, most likely due to a better energy economy in Exterminate, he performs significantly worse compared to Hydroid and Cora, which are still the numbers 1 and 2 for fast mission types. However, as one of you pointed out in the comments on the last video, fast mission types are generally a waste of time if your main goal is farming resources. So for further rankings today, I will exclude the Exterminate data. However, I just wanted to leave it in for transparency and anyone who might be curious. Before we look at the survival data, I want to talk to you about Petrify and its interaction with both Cora's Strangledome and Hydroid's Tentacle Swarm. There's some misinformation or a general misunderstanding that has been around regarding whether Orgaze and these abilities work together. Stated on the wiki is that Ore Gaze works on petrified enemies specifically, and Strangle Dome and Tentacle Swarm are an effect on kill. This means that while Tentacle Swarm and Strangle Dome won't stack when using Pilfering Augments, either of them with Petrify and Ore Gaze will. I think the confusion stems from Petrify not being visually communicated to the player consistently. When you petrify enemies before they get grabbed by tentacles or the Strangle Dome, they will keep their visual stone-looking effect. However, if this happens the other way around, the visual effect is not applied, yet the petrified status is actually applied, as can be seen in the background footage, where enemies are fully immobile after being released from the tentacles or the dome. In the end, from my testing with an Ore Gaze Hydroid setup, I found that there was a crazy loot to kill ratio, likely stemming from the interaction of Petrify, Ore Gaze, and Pilfering Tentacle Swarm, which in the end got even higher resource drop rates than Nekros. However, the energy economy on this Hydroid build was really poor, and the amount of kills that I could make per minute was also relatively low, meaning that the total resources that you would farm with a Nekros build was still higher. Okay, so now having covered the weird interactions of Petrify with the other abilities, let me get into the survival data. Instead of normalizing to the time like I did last time, I now normalize towards the total kills made in the mission, which I still ran for 5 minutes. This gives a better view of how loot rates are impacted, as the loot is calculated per kill made. This also means, however, that the KPM metric separately is important, as it gives insight into how many resources can be farmed based on the time played. If resources per kill are high, but you barely kill any enemies, lower resources per kill with high kill rates will still outperform. Okay, so now let's grab the graph, and what we can see is that Nekros is now clearly the absolute king of solo loot when you are able to fully min-max a build. Here I had a high kill rate, I was using the Amalgam Ripkas, and I was using Ore Gaze spamming Petrify on enemies. When I went into ranking the 4 frames, just like I did last time, Nekros came out on top with 31 points, Korra came second with 15 points, Hydroid third with 13 points, and Atlas was sadly in last place with 7 points. Sadly, the data on Atlas was quite underwhelming, just like the data on screen right now, which shows that 95% of you watching is not subscribed yet. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe for more Warframe content coming your way, and while you're at it, cast a Petrify on the like button. Okay, so coming back to the loot topic and closing off the video, I might have still missed some things. If I did, please let me know in the comments and I might include them in a future video. In the meantime, I'm working on assembling a new meta loot setup, which I will pitch in another video down the line, which you don't want to miss. Finally, just like last time, if you are interested in taking a look at the data, you can find a Google spreadsheet with my data and some extra info down in the description. Thank you for tuning into this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. As always, thanks to all channel members for supporting the channel. If you are looking to become a member, please find the join button below the video.